Ethan wiped the sweat from his forehead and leaned back to examine the alien armor he had been working on for hours. It was unlike anything he had seen before. Sleek, metallic, and yet strangely organic, as if it had been grown rather than forged. The plates interlocked perfectly, each joint reinforced with energy conduits that glimmered faintly under the dim light of the repair bay. This was no ordinary armor. It belonged to Lyra, one of the most feared warriors in the Coalition, a woman who had survived battles that had decimated entire squads. And now it was broken. Ethan had been nervous from the moment she walked in. Lyra did not need humans to fix anything. She could handle her armor herself. But circumstances had forced her here, and she had chosen him. His stomach churned with a mixture of pride and anxiety. One wrong move, and not only would he fail, but he could also offend her, and offending Lyra was not something anyone survived. He adjusted his tools and began the delicate work of recalibrating the exoskeletal joints. He had studied the schematics that had been left in the bay, but seeing the armor in person was different. The energy nodes flickered as he connected his diagnostic interface, and he carefully replaced a damaged servo that controlled her shoulder joint. Every movement had to be precise. The armor was highly sensitive. One misalignment could cause the entire system to malfunction. Lyra leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed, watching silently. She did not speak, but her eyes followed every motion, sharp and observant. Ethan felt the pressure of her gaze. He could almost feel the judgment weighing down on him, but he refused to let it distract him. He had always been good with machines, and he knew he could fix this. He just needed to focus. Hours passed in near silence. The occasional beep of his diagnostic tool was the only sound in the room. Ethan's hands moved with precision, adjusting the plating and reconnecting the energy conduits. He wiped a smudge from the armor's surface, only to notice a faint blue glow from a fracture line. That was the next challenge. He carefully used a bonding agent that hardened under low-level plasma, smoothing out the fracture and restoring the armor's integrity. As he worked, Lyra finally stepped closer, her presence suddenly overwhelming the small bay. Ethan could feel the heat radiating from her, not just physical warmth, but a presence that made his heart race. "You humans have strange ways of handling tools," Lyra said, her voice low but clear. "I expected clumsiness, but you handle this with care." Ethan's face flushed. I've had practice," he stammered, his fingers still moving rapidly. "I repair machines. Not usually armor like this, but I can adapt." Lyra tilted her head, watching him with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. "Adaptation is a rare quality," she said. "Most humans fail when things get complicated. You do not." Ethan swallowed hard. Compliments from Lyra were not to be taken lightly. He nodded, not trusting his voice. She took a step closer, and he noticed the faint scent of her. Something earthy and metallic, a unique combination that was entirely her own. He tried to concentrate on the repair, but his attention wavered. "Careful with the joint here," she said suddenly, pointing at the elbow plate. Her finger brushed against his hand as she leaned in, close enough that he could feel her warmth. "If that servo fails, I will feel it in the field, and I will not forgive failure lightly," Ethan nodded, carefully tightening the components. His hands trembled slightly, but he managed to steady them. He had never been this close to anyone like this before, close enough that a single movement could be interpreted in so many ways. He tried to focus, telling himself it was just a machine, it's just a set of moving parts. As he worked, Lyra shifted slightly behind him. Ethan adjusted a panel near her back, sliding his hands over the smooth surface, reconnecting power nodes. She did not move away. Instead, she stayed perfectly still, letting him do his work. There was a tension in the air, quiet acknowledgement, that this was more than just a repair session. Ethan finished the final connections on the shoulder joint. He ran diagnostics, and the armor systems hummed to life. Lights blinked in sequence, energy nodes glowed steadily, and the servos moved smoothly under his careful touch. He exhaled, satisfied. But before he could step back, Lyra leaned down. Ethan felt her breath near his ear, and then unexpectedly, she pressed her lips lightly against the side of his neck. The gesture was quick, playful, almost teasing, but it sent a jolt through him. He froze, his hands hovering over the armor, unsure whether to pull away or stay still. Lyra pulled back slightly, her eyes locking onto his. There was a spark of amusement in her gaze. "You did well," she said softly. "I trusted you with my armor." "That is not a small thing." Ethan's face burned red. "Thank you," he managed to say, though his voice sounded weak even to him. He turned back to her armor, pretending to check the joints again. But his hands shook slightly. Lyra studied him silently for a moment. Then she straightened, crossing her arms once more. "Do you always get so flustered when humans touch things they should not?" she asked, her tone playful, teasing. Ethan cleared his throat. I take my work seriously," he said. "And, well, I've never worked on anything like this before." "You handled it well," she said again. There was a soft smile on her lips, subtle but noticeable. Ethan felt a strange mixture of relief and awe. He had earned her respect, even if in a small way. For the next hour, they worked together to ensure every piece of the armor was functioning perfectly. Ethan adjusted the energy fields, recalibrated the movement sensors, ran multiple diagnostics, while Lyra offered insight into the armor's capabilities and limitations. It was a delicate dance of human ingenuity and alien experience. Ethan began to notice small details about Hertha, way she observed his movements, the way she adjusted her stance to make his work easier, the subtle glances she gave him when she thought he wasn't looking. Each observation made his heart beat faster, but he kept his focus. He knew this was not the time to be distracted. Yet he could not deny the connection forming between them. Finally, the repair was complete. The armor shimmered under the bay lights, fully restored and better than before. Lyra moved her arms, flexing the joints, testing the mobility. "Excellent," she said. "You have done well." I could feel the difference immediately. Ethan smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "I'm glad it's working for you," he said. It looks stronger than ever." Lyra nodded, then took a step closer, close enough that her presence enveloped him. She leaned down again, and this time her lips brushed against his neck in a fleeting, almost teasing gesture. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He knew this was more than a simple gesture. It was a sign of trust, of acknowledgement, maybe even a challenge. "You humans are strange," she said, pulling back slightly. "So small, yet so capable when it matters. You might just surprise us all someday." Ethan felt his cheeks heat up again. I hope I can help," he said, trying to sound calm despite the rush of emotions. Lyra's expression softened for a moment, rare glimpse of vulnerability in a warrior who was otherwise unshakable. "You already have," she said simply. Then she turned and walked toward the exit, leaving Ethan standing there, still processing the encounter as he cleaned his tools and organized the repair bay. Ethan could not shake the feeling of excitement and uncertainty. Lyra's gesture had been unexpected, but it had also given him a sense of connection he had never experienced before. He knew that the next time they faced battle together, he would not only be an engineer, he would be a partner, trusted and valued by one of the most formidable warriors in the galaxy. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a mix of pride, nervousness, and anticipation. He had fixed her armor, yes, but something more had shifted, something that neither of them could ignore. The bond formed in that small repair bay would carry them forward, into missions and battles that neither could face alone. The stars outside the station's viewport gleamed brightly, reflecting on the polished surface of Lyra's armor as she stepped back into the corridor. Ethan watched her go, knowing that this was only the beginning. Their journey together had started with a simple act of repair, but it was destined to become something far greater, a partnership built on trust, respect, and perhaps even something more. And as the station's lights dimmed for the night cycle, Ethan felt a quiet determination settle within him. No matter the challenges ahead, he would rise to meet them, not just as a human among warriors, but as someone who had earned the trust of one of the greatest fighters the galaxy had ever seen. The night passed with Ethan making final adjustments to the tools and armor systems, replaying every moment of the encounter in his mind. He knew that tomorrow the battles would continue. The missions would test them, and the galaxy would challenge their skills and courage. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet pride, knowing that he had done something remarkable and that Lyra had noticed. The soft hum of the repair bay was comforting, a reminder that even in a universe filled with danger and conflict, there were moments of connection, moments of trust, and moments that could change the course of their lives forever. Ethan smiled, ready to face whatever came next. Knowing that he was no longer just a human engineer, he was someone who had touched the life of a warrior. And perhaps, in return, she had touched his as well. The next morning, the space station was alive with activity. Ships docked and undocked, crew members hurried along the corridors, and the hum of machinery filled the air. Ethan arrived early at the maintenance bay, still thinking about the events of the previous night. The memory of Lyra's unexpected gesture lingered in his mind, making his heart race even as he focused on the work ahead. He checked the repair logs and systems diagnostics, making sure all the armor's subsystems were stable. Lyra's suit had performed perfectly in simulations overnight, but he knew that real combat would be the true test. His fingers moved with practiced precision, tightening conduits, calibrating sensors, and running the energy cores through their sequences. Each adjustment required careful attention, but Ethan was motivated not just by the technical challenge, but by the thought of Lyra's trust. Lyra arrived shortly after, her armor fully assembled and gleaming under the bay lights. She moved with her usual confidence, each step precise and commanding. When she saw Ethan, a faint smile played on her lips, though she did not speak immediately. Instead, she walked over and examined her armor, flexing the joints and testing the mobility. "You did well," she said finally, her voice calm but carrying the weight of her approval. "Everything is stable. I can feel the difference." Ethan felt a surge of pride. "I'm glad it's working for you," he replied, keeping his tone steady, even though his palms were clammy. "I just want to make sure you're safe." Lyra's eyes softened for a brief moment, an expression rare for a warrior who was usually so composed. "You have a strange way of showing care, human," she said, almost teasingly, "but I will not deny that it matters." Their moment was interrupted by the station's alert system, announcing an incoming threat. A hostile alien fleet was approaching a nearby colony. The coalition forces were mobilizing, and Lyra's squad was being deployed immediately. Ethan felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was his chance to see the armor in action and to prove himself under pressure. He followed Lyra to the deployment bay, where ships were already preparing for launch. Pilots and engineers worked together in a synchronized chaos, and Ethan found himself drawn into the rhythm of the station. Lyra's presence was constant at his side, and despite the tension, he noticed the subtle ways she made space for him, acknowledging his role without words. Once aboard the shuttle, Ethan monitored Lyra's armor remotely, his fingers flying over the control interface. The ship entered faster than light travel, and the stars stretched into long streaks of light around them. Ethan felt a thrill as they emerged near the colony. The enemy fleet was larger than expected, and the coalition forces were preparing for a difficult engagement. Lyra's ship detached from the main fleet, moving with grace and speed that Ethan could barely comprehend. He watched as she maneuvered through enemy fire, her armor glowing as energy shields absorbed the impacts. Suddenly, a plasma blast hit her shoulder plate, causing the system to destabilize. Ethan's heart leapt into his throat. "Lyra, your left shoulder is taking damage," he shouted through the comms, his hands working rapidly to stabilize the armor. "I've got it," she replied, her voice steady, but Ethan could hear the strain. "Just keep it running." He adjusted the energy flows, rerouting power to the shield generators and reinforcing the servo joints. The armor hummed under his control, responding to every adjustment he made. Lyra twisted and turned mid-flight, evading enemy fire with skill and precision. But it was clear that without his support, she could not maintain her effectiveness for long. "You're doing well," she said suddenly, almost as if noticing him for the first time amidst the chaos. "I can feel your influence in the armor. Don't stop." Ethan's fingers flew over the interface, coordinating the energy systems and running rapid diagnostics. He realized in that moment that he was not just a support engineer. He was part of the battle, actively influencing the outcome. The adrenaline coursed through him, sharpening his focus and giving him confidence he had never known. The enemy ships closed in, their weapons targeting coalition forces. Lyra engaged them head-on, dodging attacks while Ethan continued to stabilize her armor remotely. A particularly large enemy cruiser fired a concentrated beam that struck her armor directly. Alarms blared and Ethan's heart pounded. He rerouted power to the reinforced plating. His mind working faster than ever, Lyra executed a precise evasive maneuver, spinning her ship and using her thrusters to angle the armor in a way that absorbed most of the impact. The damage was minimized, and the armor held. Ethan exhaled, a mixture of relief and exhilaration flooding through him. "Nice work, human," Lyra said, her voice carrying a hint of genuine admiration. "You may actually be more useful than I thought," Ethan smiled, though he knew the battle was far from over. "I'm just glad you're okay," he said. The fight continued. Ethan maintained his focus, coordinating with the other engineers to keep the fleet's armor systems and support tech functioning. Lyra moved like a force of nature, each attack executed with precision and confidence. They communicated through short bursts over the comms, each message efficient but filled with understanding. During a critical moment, an enemy fighter broke through the defenses and targeted Lyra directly. She struggled to maintain her maneuvering, and her armor systems began to falter under the concentrated fire. Ethan's hands flew across the interface, overriding protocols and injecting emergency stabilization power. The armor responded immediately, regaining functionality just in time for Lyra to dodge the attack and counter the enemy fighter. After the battle, the fleet regrouped and the enemy retreated. Lyra's armor had taken several hits, but it had held, and she had survived thanks in large part to Ethan's interventions. She landed on the colony's surface and stepped out. Scanning the area with practiced vigilance, Ethan joined her, carrying a portable diagnostic kit to ensure everything remained stable. He felt a sense of pride as she walked beside him, acknowledging his presence not just as a human engineer, but as someone who had played a crucial role in the outcome. "You were incredible," Lyra said, her voice softer now, almost reflective. "Not many humans could keep up with this level of combat. Most would fail, and fast." Ethan shrugged, trying to appear modest. "I just did what I could," he said. "You're the one out there fighting. I just helped." Lyra looked at him, and for a brief moment her usual composure wavered. She smiled, a rare, genuine expression. "No," she said. "You did more than help. You saved me, and that matters." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. The bond they had begun in the quiet of the repair bay had grown stronger under fire. It was no longer just trust in his skills, it was trust in him as a person. They spent the next few hours inspecting her armor, making minor adjustments and ensuring everything was fully functional. Ethan was meticulous, double-checking every joint and energy node, while Lyra observed and offered occasional feedback. There was a comfortable rhythm between them now, silent understanding that each respected the other's abilities. As the sun set over the colony, Lyra stood silently, watching the stars appear one by one. Ethan joined her, feeling the quiet of the moment settle over them after the intensity of battle. "You know," Lyra said softly, "I did not expect humans to be this capable. I underestimated you." Ethan smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I've learned a lot since I came here," he said. "And I've had good teachers." Lyra's gaze met his, steady and unwavering. "I might have more to teach you," she said, her tone almost playful, but carrying a hint of seriousness. "And I suspect you might have more to teach me too." Ethan felt a flutter of excitement. He realized that their partnership was not just about armor or battle, it was about mutual respect, acute understanding, and the possibility of something more. He did not know what the future held, but he knew that together they could face whatever challenges came next. The night was quiet, the stars casting a soft glow on the colony's surface. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, looking out at the expanse of space, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. They had faced danger, worked together under impossible pressure, and emerge stronger for it. Lyra finally broke the silence. "Tomorrow, we prepare for the next mission," she said. "But tonight, we can rest. And remember, human, you have proven yourself." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment that went beyond the technical work he had done. It was about trust, courage, and the beginning of a bond that could change the way humans and alien warriors saw each other. As they returned to the station, Ethan felt a quiet determination. He knew there would be more battles, more challenges, and more opportunities to test himself. But for the first time, he felt truly part of something greater, partnership built on skill, respect, and something that neither had the stars outside reflected in Lyra's armor. A reminder that even in a universe filled with conflict, there were moments of connection, trust, and understanding. Ethan realized that this was just the beginning. Together, they could face anything, and perhaps, in the process, discover something deeper between them. For now, the repairs were complete, the battle won, and a new chapter had begun. Ethan knew that he had earned more than respect. He had earned a place in Lyra's life, and perhaps she had earned a place in his. The universe was vast and dangerous, but together they were strong,